Hey, what are the dates? In the paper right on with this, in the orange.
It's a little warm.
There's Brent. Hello, Brent. Morning. How you doing?
Doing all right.
Good.
What's the air conditioner set at?
And there's Robin. Oh, Lorraine was just messing.
AC, is that?
It's like a sauna in here.
It is not like a sauna.
We have a sleeveless dress on.
Thanks, Mayor. Somebody stick it up for me
I dressed for
finally.
the weather.
It's 74.
Jeez, and Christmas is hot.
Well, when we go to the Rollins Center, it's like 80.
Yeah,
I'm like-
well, but they need to replace the
Thermostat
whole,
system.
right.
I'm gonna but see, I come out, my house is set at 65 year round.
65.
I'd hate to pay your bills.
$130, that's it.
65. I don't think I'd want it that cold.
And in the winter time, I drop it down to 60 because I like it that cold. And I'm the one walking around in shorts and a t-shirt, flip-flops year round. I sweat that bad.
What do your kids do?
Well, when they come over here in the summertime, they're wearing sweatpants and sweatshirts.
But in the wintertime, they must
Wearing sweatshirts
and a couple layers.
They know.
Long johns.
They do. And what's that? They have one of them big winter coats? That's what they
Down coats.
Down coats.
I have a son-in-law who walks around in the wintertime with shorts.
I do.
Like, how can you do that?
I wear flip-flops year round until it starts snowing.
That's like him, and it's like that. And
I
it's like,
sweat constantly. I've been doing yard work in my house on my stay vacation.
Yeah, this is all available for public consumption there.
Yes, right. It is. You're being.
I don't care. They, I just sweat like constantly.
How many participants do we have? How many attendees do we have?
Zero.
Zero. Well, okay. So it's just he's just informing the committee of his
Yes.
of his personal habits.
And anybody who watches later.
Right. Right. I forgot about that.
Yes, I'll advertise my life on TV or computer.
I think you already are.
Yes.
All right. Well, we have a couple more minutes here, and then we got to get started. You got Austin?
Yeah, he just doesn't have his video off yet.
Okay. There he is.
There he is.
We recognize that beard anywhere.
Yeah, the 80s light fixture comes when you buy an 80s house.
Love it.
What'd you do, wax that head?
Did this morning, yeah. Trying to wax.
Job.
Yeah, he waxes it.
Okay.
All right. I think we're getting way too personal here.
You asked, right there.
Okay. All right. So I think it is. It's documented, yeah.
Look at the glare on that thing.
Okay. All right, well, it is, I think, 9:08, and we're here for the mitigation planning team meeting on the morning of August the 10th. And we're a couple minutes late, and we've got a few people on Zoom, and those of us here at the table. I do think we have a quorum at this point. And first of all, I'd like to recognize Austin Kellerman. I think at our last meeting, we were made aware that Darren Gordon would be leaving as the former general manager of BPW, and Austin has now been appointed as his replacement, successor. And he, Austin, so you will become a member of this committee by virtue of your position. So we thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look forward to your input in as we all work towards how we can best mitigate the concerns that are brought to us as a result of sea level rise and climate change and other things that are happening. So just by way of information, yesterday I had Sue Ann send a copy of an article that I had read in the New York Times about how a German city is rethinking their future given the rather catastrophic flooding issues that they have. I think the reason I had it circulated was they were the article referred back to things that had been done in years past that had been overlooked, and I think we're looking currently, and we all recognize that there are things that could have been done differently in the past. And so I think for me, that article suggested that this, not only that we already knew that the work we're doing is important, but sometimes we really have to take some what seems to be very bold steps in order to ensure that we're providing the best possible for the future. Yes, Joe?
Did you send it to everybody on the committee?
Sue Ann sent it to everybody on the committee.
You didn't get it?
I'll get it to you. We've got copies of here.
I'll forward it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. But I thought it was an interesting article. It was very timely. It was in Sunday's New York Times. Actually, it was a front-page article. So the first item on the agenda is the minutes. Hopefully, Joe, did you get those?
Yes, they
Okay.
were attached to the
Right. The
City Hall thing.
Okay, good. All right, so hopefully the four of you on the Zoom meeting also received copies, and if so, and Jackie's with us today as well, is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So,
Okay. Motion and a second from Chatham and Joe. So all in favor? Okay. All right, so any opposed? I don't think, so we'll move on then when minutes are approved. So the first item on the discussion this morning is the Phragmities control. Chatham, you've been doing a great job with this. Can you tell us where we are?
So we did the burn. We only burned one section of by the canal. With that being said, that when they went to do the burn, they cut it all up in quadrants. The quadrant closest to C.H. Mason Way was not able to be burned because it has turned green. It wasn't that bad, but I still want to burn it so we can keep ahead of it. Since there's not that much there, I still think we can get ahead of that little section. The other part that was not burned was American Legion Road that backs up to Cape Hill Open Drive and then Freeman Highway. That quadrant was not able to be burned because we ran out of time due to the burn ban. Hoping in October, when Sam and the rest of the guys get back from California and Colorado, doing the wildfire thing, we can start thinking about burning that last area on Cape Hill Open Drive and American Legion Road. After we burned the area on the canal, it seemed like it was it's coming back green, a lot of grass. So the spraying has helped. The spraying is I'll bring up here in a little bit about the spraying for this year. But the spraying did work well. And dosing it, we sprayed it twice before we burned it, so it was good. We didn't get too many complaints when we burned. Actually, the smoke stayed lower than I thought. I figured we could, since it was so thick, it would shoot straight up like a big column, but it didn't. I was a little disappointed in that, but it went well. So we had 17 agencies all working together. We did a JIC, myself as the city, the fire department, and the forestry unit all worked together, and then we had drones coming in from DEMA and Rehoboth Fire Company brought their stuff in too. So we had enough drone work, we had enough people out there. The big concern that we got was the animals. We had actually two drones in the air at all times watching the deer. So I want to make sure that is being said, that we were watching the animals and making sure that they were all safe. We had foxes running out between us, between each person. We got them out. I even saw field mice running across, and it went across my foot. So the animals were saved. There was none of the animals died or got burned. We did walk the whole perimeter. We did walk it through and make sure everything was out before we left. So I can go on and on about that, but that's the nutshell of the burn. For this year, again, we need to start looking at spraying. Since we bought in the Birmingham property, we're going to be more or less have to start looking at Canary Creek. That backs up.
That's not city property. I thought we were only addressing city.
Canary Creek is that whole area. Who owns Canary Creek?
Well, the
HOA will.
The HOA will own that side, and then the Pilot Town, Reserves of Pilot Town HOA owns the other side.
They go all the way to the water.
They go to the creek.
All right, then it's not a problem. So, but I budgeted for 150 acres for spraying. We only did 100 last year because that's all we needed to do because we sprayed twice. So I budgeted for 150, and it's like $15,000. I sent that to you, right? Yes.
In the past, you've done, because of the fire hazard to those homes and the implication for the fire department, the city has sprayed up to Canary Creek behind both of those HOAs.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's been a tradition.
That's why we're still doing it.
Yeah. And I think we probably ought to reach out to Mr. Setting and ask him,
I am supposed to have a meeting with him, and
With Joe Setting?
yes,
Okay.
but I lost his information when I went out sick for.
Sleesman, too.
We've got it. Don't worry, Chatham.
Sleesman, yeah, I think we can know how to get a hold of Mr. Setting. We can get it to you.
When I went out sick, that was when I was supposed to meet with him, and
Okay.
it didn't happen. I can't find this thing right now, but it's $15,000 for 150 acres, and that's aerial spraying only. There are some areas that where the helicopter cannot get, and we're going to have to do a little bit more hand spraying. That's behind where Kenny and I cut. The C.H. Mason Way in that area that runs across by that the paper street there. The helicopter cannot get in there and get that close to without causing harm, life safety issues. So we're going to have to hand spray that, and there's a couple other areas behind the Daily Market. And then we need to reach out to the lady again,
Angler's Nest.
Angler's Nest, and see if she would mind us spraying that and reimbursing the city.
Okay, that's Meredith.
So we cut it. I think we did, between Kenny and I, we did a heck of a job.
You did.
Kenny had to get me unstuck once or twice, but it was fun. And yes, I do have pictures of that. Kenny?
He didn't hear you.
So, but we did, that's coming back, and it's coming back green, but it's also coming back with the frag. So
Okay.
we need to reach out to them to get
Okay.
ahead of that.
It's getting heavy along New Road. It's getting so clogged. In the past, what we did there was the ditch people would wait till it froze, and then we'd go in and cut it. But it hasn't frozen hard in a couple of years.
I believe that ditch,
That's part of the tax ditch.
didn't Del transfer that to us 2 years ago?
Well, Del Dot said they were going to go ahead and clean it, and that after that, it would be the city's responsibility.
So I don't know if the BPW
Never
has to do
formally
that or not.
accepted that responsibility.
Or that, I think that, does that fall under the BPW, or does that fall under the city?
Austin, you want to comment? I know you've had some work done out there yourself, the BPW has. Can you comment on that?
Are you talking about the ditch along New Road, basically right before the last section before you were to go over that straightaway that goes over Canary Creek?
Right.
Yes.
On the left, if you're heading out of town?
Yes.
I'm guessing that would be us, that would be on us. I'm thinking that when we have the Sussex County Conservation District come out and do their cutting, we would probably see if they could add that to the list.
That's a good, I was getting ready to ask you if we could do that.
That's the last ditch.
They were,
It's the end of the tax day.
they were there this week, last week. So, they were up by the dog park, because we got a complaint about it. Remember when you called me? So that's we need to address that. I want to spray that area also to hit that and get that bulk of frag out of there, because it backs up to that one house on that fence line. So, like I said, when Sam gets in, we're going to address the areas that I have concerns with, and we're going to go from there.
Can I raise one?
Go ahead.
Austin, you sprayed behind the tax ditch on Blue Heron Drive. There was no frag in there. You're using a strong insecticide. It's not a good practice just to use it as a weed killer. And all the edges of that ditch at the far end that come up around Sussex Circle, every bit of greenery is now dead, and there is no frag. But you're going to have the, whatever they use, flowing into the water system.
What are you talking about?
We can talk separately. You sprayed the,
We talked about this last week, Austin, right?
Yeah, Emmett went and sprayed that back section because of getting complaint about how it was back in there, and then we had some residents, came out and they made the comments to it, and Emmett had talked to them about it. We can go about it anyway. It's just trying to figure out a common practice that everybody's going to be satisfied with.
Okay, so I got a suggestion. Why don't we use the guy that we use to spray here when we get him to come in, because he uses the same kind of spray that we have do aerial, and it will only kill the frag, it will not kill the weeds.
That's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with that at all.
So what will happen when I get that guy that I contacted him last week, we'll sit down, I'll get you to come in with us, and we can go over it, and that problem will be squashed.
And we'll go through and we'll look at the map and see if there's any other areas so that we can kill it all at one time.
Okay. So there is one down there that's off Cedar. It's got a lot of frag. It is breaking. There's, I forget what side street it was, but it's all around a fire hydrant. I want to tell you right now, you can't see that hydrant if we have a fire. So we need to get that taken care of too. I saw that.
That's fine.
Also, when we go, speaking of your chemicals, there was brought up to look for a different type of chemical. I sat down I called the guy that uses that sprays for us. Mr. Corman I talked to him about it, and there is another chemical out there, but that chemical will kill everything. I mean everything, vegetation-wise. We don't want that. We want just to kill the frag.
Well, the concern that was raised about the chemical was that it's linked to cancer.
Right.
I can imagine that something that would kill everything
Is even
might
worse.
also
It
have
will,
some.
I think, has a little bit more, it would have more issues. So this is the chemical that's being used. It's used by the state of Delaware, and I'm sure they went through all kinds of measurements to make sure it is environmentally safe and human safe, and I believe we should stay where we're at.
is this the guy from Maryland?
He's one of them.
Yeah, he's good.
So I think we need to stay with the chemicals we have, stay with the practices we have. I am biased about this because I'm the one that did all of it. I would hope everybody will stand behind me with the decision I made. Anybody else, if somebody else has a suggestion, I'll look into it and move forward.
I think the thing I've heard is people want to be notified in advance.
And that's what we did.
And that's
Right,
the
and
thing.
we're doing that.
That's the underlying issue, is making sure that we provide adequate notice and
Right.
advance notice, so that if people want to stay out of the area or want to leave the area while it's being done, they can. Are we doing anything with the lands that the city has as open space back in Canary Creek?
Spraying.
Okay, but there's no need to cut that. It just,
Well, yeah, it does need to be cut, but as of right now,
Are you talking about the strip, though?
Yeah, this, not the strip, no, the other parcel.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no, the strip, you can't, the strip is a tree issue.
Right.
we need to look at it.
Okay.
I think I'm thinking of the same area, but I would like to go back there with you and
Okay.
make sure we're all on the same page.
We can look at it on a plot as well.
That's fine, we can do that, and we can work with that, and then if it's hard enough, get Kenny and I, we can
Okay.
go back there and cut it.
Great. Okay. All right, well, the issue of chemical spray has been one that's been discussed at City Council, and I think we are currently using what is recommended. And Danielle, I know you've been very helpful in the past in helping us identify things that are chemicals that are of concern. Is there any new information that's come across your desk that suggests that we should be considering a change?
Really, that's a little bit outside my area. It's my colleague Kate Fleming that I've put the committee in touch with. So I haven't asked her recently if there's anything new.
Okay.
But if you do have any specific questions, I'm happy to relay them to her and get the answers back.
Okay.
When we had previously corresponded with her, there was another chemical, the research that she provided, there was another chemical, but it was not as effective at killing
And it was
the
much more
invasive
expensive.
species. And, exactly.
It was like a couple of $1,000.
So, it didn't seem to necessarily be a better alternative.
All right. So basically, the $15,000 represents about a 50% increase over what we did last year. Is that correct?
We're estimating, I'm sure it's gonna be under that, but I was estimating it to be that much, and then if we don't use that, all that, it'll be for the hand spraying.
Okay. All right. Well, it's very important that we keep up with it, and we don't want to get behind as we had been in the past.
I think we're not as far behind, and we're catching up to it.
No, you've done a great job of getting this under control, so we appreciate it. Okay. Any other comments or questions from those here about this? Hearing none, I think we can move on to the Lewes Executive Committee on Resiliency. The committee was formed, we formed it during the July City Council meeting, and the committee has had one meeting, which was basically an organizational meeting, everyone getting to know each other. It is made up of 11 members of the community, representing a broad cross-section of the community, some people from the beach, some people from the city, some people from engineering, some people from health concerns, and this is a grant that was awarded to the city by IPA and DENREC to work on resiliency issues. And the committee will meet this evening for its first real informational meeting, and I anticipate that it will be a very productive meeting as we start to look at flooding and other topics. Anne-Marie or Janelle, you want to add anything to that? Okay. The committee is meeting every other week, twice monthly, and I want to again thank IPA and DENREC for their efforts in moving this forward. And eventually, after the committee hears from various experts or people who have considerable knowledge about various topics that have been chosen, the committee will get down to talking about how that might impact what we should be considering for ordinance changes or code changes that in light of the information that they've been gleaned from the presentations that have been made. It's a really great opportunity. I know that this is one grant that they've done this year, and when they do these grants, generally they're looking not only for how this community can benefit, but how it can be beneficial to other communities who may be interested. The committee's meeting is public. It's held by Zoom at 4 o'clock this afternoon. It's on the city's website. If anybody's interested in joining the committee to watch, and there is opportunity for public comment at the last 15 minutes of each hour-and-a-half session, I would encourage you to attend this evening's meeting. It will be the first one where there's actual presentations made. Anything else that I have neglected to share? Okay. So I think that's going to be an ongoing report that we will receive. Janelle, anything on the subcommittee on water recharge area that you want to share today?
No.
Okay. All right. All right, in terms of NIMS training, I know this, we've had this on the agenda for a couple of months now. Chatham had been keeping the records of NIMS in the past. Shelby, our HR person, has now keeping those records, and what I've learned from Chatham and Shelby is that we still have several members, particularly new members of City Council, who need to complete the NIMS training. Most of those...
Just staff as well.
And new staff, right. And most of those early low basic courses can be taken online. And when you complete it, you need to make sure that the certificate that you received is passed to Shelby so it can be included in the record. These are important documents that we need to be able to demonstrate that our staff and our elected officials have completed the necessary training. So again, we'll get the notice out to members of council, but any new staff should consider getting the 1, 2, and 300 level classes.
It's 1, 2, and 8.
8, 7 is it now?
Yeah, 3 and 4 are the in-person classes.
Yeah, I did the 3
So
and the 4.
it's 1, 2, and is it 700?
7 and 8.
Okay,
And 7 and 8, they're all online.
okay.
If the council wants to do it, they can, back on day work next Monday, I can meet with them Monday and Tuesday and walk them through it, or I can walk the new people through it also. I can tell you right now, the street department is completely done and they're 100%, so.
That's great.
Kudos to you, Ricky.
Good.
The reasoning behind doing this, doing all these certificates and these classes is so we can get federal funding if something, God forbid, happens here. They do want to make sure we're NIMS compliant. Shelby has, I can't speak for her myself, but after I can speak for myself, I can tell you that we spoke about it, and she seems like she's the same way as I am. We want the city of Lewes to stand out. We want to be number one, and everybody needs to get this stuff done so we can be show by example. So.
Okay, great.
Hey, Chatham, and Anne Marie and the mayor. I was just going to ask, who on your staff has 300 and 400?
So there'll be the mayor, the deputy mayor, the city manager, the police chief, the lieutenant, myself because of where I am, Ricky, Kenny, and I'm forgetting.
Allison?
Allison. It was on the tip of my tongue, I couldn't get it out. Ellen Lorraine has to have it. A couple of the code enforcement officers has to oversee it. Basically, the top 1 and 2 of every department has to have it, plus you.
Plus you, and I don't think it's required, but I think it would be a good idea if the president of your board also had it. So
Yes.
press also should be considered.
So, a while back, you were looking at scheduling 3 and 400
We can start
to
looking
do
at it.
on-site.
But don't you need 10 people to participate in that?
We have enough.
We
We would have enough, but they're sequential courses, so we got to get the 1 and 2 done before we can
Right.
do the 300.
Well, the ones that need a 3 and 4, majority of them majority already have those classes.
I don't think that city council members do.
Right.
Well, I'm saying majority
Yeah,
of our
okay,
people.
yeah, I got it.
But I say 90% of the people that need 3 and 4 already have those classes. But the city council, the ones that need it, we can get that done very quickly.
Sure.
It's not that hard if you know command staff, and it's pretty easy.
Well, and it's,
Well, I was going to say about, we have staff that could do it too.
Yeah.
Because I'll have Rhett and Emmett. I don't know if they have it.
Emmett
I probably
does.
do. I've already done it.
Emmett already has it because of
Probably
military.
press.
Bob may already have it too, I don't know.
Bob has it.
Bob's leaving.
But Bob's getting ready to retire. He's not gonna
24 days.
Yeah, but whoever gets in his position should come up to that speed as well.
Yeah, so I'll sit down again, I can sit down with you again, and we'll go over that, and so we can all work together on this. But we do have enough people to do it. We can also, the city of Rehoboth is also big in this, and a couple of the smaller towns, so we can actually reach out to them and get more people if we choose to. So I think it'll be pretty cool for us to do it again and lead by example.
Okay, great. Okay, so it's a work in progress here. All right. Then moving on to Community Resiliency Recovery Update. The MOU between the library and the city is still a work in progress. They're very interested in moving forward. It's a matter of getting city solicitor to finalize the MOU so we could get that moving. And the Burton Group, Automobile Group, has also interested in working with us to come up with a storage facility for vehicles. So
Yeah, a question about that.
please, go ahead.
The city, the board, and the county already went together and bought that piece of property out there.
No.
No, you can't. Sorry about that.
I was trying.
No, it's going to remain fallow. Okay.
I tried.
Mayor Becker, I missed, what is the MOU with the library for?
So we could use it, because the fire department is actually in the floodplain, and the library is not. And so we would move it, if we needed to, you have a command center, we would go to the library rather than the fire hall.
Okay, great.
And, there are some electrical upgrades and things perhaps that have to be done there in order for it to be effective, and we need to identify what those are. So it's an excellent location because of its access to Kings Highway and also access to downtown. So it's as good a location as we would have had on Savannah Road at the fire hall. And the library is very willing to be cooperative. And as Anne Marie just said, it won't be inundated. So won't need a rowboat to get there. So.
It was brought up before about the new school, about us using the new school also for housing our people. Do we need to do
We would need to talk to Cape Henlopen High School.
I was going to say
School
that the
district.
school district hasn't agreed to it.
Not yet.
We've talked to them about it, but we have not sat down and really discussed it.
Okay, that's a Superintendent Fulton question. Do we need to-
Yeah, and
I was working out with him today, I should have asked him.
I think part of, oh gosh, this is so long ago that we had the conversation, but I think part of the issue is that the county, through Joe Thomas, designates shelters. So if it's
That's
something.
not a shelter, though.
Right, so if it's something separate,
That's why I asked, when we did the tabletop, I asked that specifically.
Right.
And they said there will not be a shelter, and we discussed about seeing if they could put a generator on there. So our people, as in our employees, have a place to stay and away from everything else, and they can sleep there.
You're talking about the new school.
The new school,
Yeah.
the one they're building right now in Savannah Road.
You're talking about Shields, the new
New
Shields.
Shields,
Right.
the elementary.
Yeah.
new elementary.
Yeah, I mean, because the high school is used as a shelter.
Yes. And then that'll keep our people safe, and that'll keep our people in town. We know where they're at, it's accountability.
Okay.
It's,
We can follow up.
And now would be the ideal time if you're going to hook in a generator.
correct.
And you need to have the wiring, because there was all kinds of problems previously when Cape was designated as an off-site and the generators, switches couldn't be found.
It's a Brian Bassett question, whether or not.
Yeah, and I remember talking to Brian about it before, and part of it has to do with, part of the decision process has to do with, I think that they get funding specifically because of being a shelter. So I can't remember if that affected their ability to do it at the other location.
The other, and then
It's been so long since we talked about
with it, I remember correctly, we even talked about maybe if they would do the generator, that we would go half with it.
Well, and the question we probably need to look at the ARPA funds. Could some of that be utilized to help offset some of that cost?
I'll look at that.
I don't know. If we're talking about a resiliency purpose, this would seem to apply, at least on the surface, but I think it's a question that warrants investigation.
I think there's a couple of us on this committee should go and sit down with the board and ask them and discuss it.
Okay. All right, so there's work there. All right. All right, in terms of flood monitoring, we'll move then on to item C6, which is flood monitoring and reporting. Brent, do you have?
Charlie sent an email the other day.
Right. And Brent, do you want to comment on that email? I think everybody got it.
I did.
I am not that familiar with where it stands now. I know he sent the email and had a couple of PDF exhibits on the flooding on Savannah Road and West Cedar to send along to Gene. I'm not sure where things stand right now on that, but.
Well, we had reached out to the American Legion, and they had identified a couple of Legion members.
I didn't get it either.
Yeah, it just went to the two of us and Janelle.
All right. So just by way of update, they had reached out, we had reached out to the American Legion because that's where the flooding on Savannah Road occurs, and they were looking for people who could monitor flooding in terms of when water started to appear and when it subsided, et cetera, et cetera. And the American Legion was very quick to identify two members of the Legion who live in the area, the immediate area, and were willing to be those people who would report to Gene Donaldson, and Charlie then developed a reporting mechanism which he shared with Gene. And I believe those two men have agreed to move forward with this. So that's very encouraging that we can provide this information.
Good. So I know that system has worked well in Oxford before, that they've kind of, a couple of residents have volunteered themselves and they take pictures when there's either a high tide or a flooding event and document dates and everything and just compile things.
Yeah.
So like they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, people read those signs that are on Savannah Road and on Cedar Street, and they just can't believe the water was that high, and so I think having pictures, as you say, are a pretty important part of, and that's what Gene Donaldson was asking for, as us as a community to provide input when we looked at the flood sensing devices that might be available through DelDOT. He's certainly willing to consider it, but he wanted some actual reporting of circumstantial evidence that we could provide. And so, again, thank you to the American Legion for their willingness to identify people who could do this. And Danielle, thank you for your efforts in getting Gene to work with us. I think.
So you've heard back from Gene, so he's acknowledged that yes, that sounds like a good plan to go forward with.
It looks from Charlie's email as it looks as if Charlie sent an email to us, and by us I mean me, the mayor, Janelle, Danielle, and then folks in GMB, including Brent. But there was there was also like a draft. The city should send this to Gene, and I'm not sure that it ever got sent.
Okay.
So
that was at the end of June, so I hadn't heard anything else since then.
So I'm not sure. So that, when I look at the date, I was on vacation that week.
Actually, it was the end of July, would it? Yeah.
This email says June 29th.
Yeah, June 29th, okay.
So, so I think we need to circle back and make sure that we follow up on that.
I know Charlie and I have talked about it. I thought he indicated he had forwarded it on, but we can confirm.
Well, so, again, I don't know for sure, but it's written as if it would come from me, and his email says it could come from me or you or Janelle.
Okay.
So I don't think it was ever sent. If
Okay,
I did not send it.
I didn't send it, Janelle didn't send it, if you didn't send
I
it, it
didn't send
probably
it.
hasn't gone to Jean.
okay. All
And
right,
also just like just a little piece of advice, if you don't mind me sharing, is that I think Gene's so busy that it's always good to make sure you receive a reply from him so you know that he's
ask for
seen it.
confirmation, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. We'll get it off to him and PDQ. And we can, you didn't get it, so we'll make sure that other members of the committee do have it, so. All right, but I want to thank the American Legion for their willingness to step up. I don't think anyone joined us from Beebe today.
Yeah, have we heard anything about Cheryl's
Cheryl said
replacement?
she had a replacement, but she didn't.
But we haven't met anybody yet that I know of.
Need to
Okay.
find out. Okay. And then, Chatham, you have mentioned the idea of doing another tabletop exercise.
Yes.
Where are we with that?
Progress.
Okay, I mean, do we need to schedule with Joe Thomas to do this?
I
or
don't want to do it with Joe Thomas.
Okay.
Or everybody, I wanted to do it
Locally?
our people. Eleanor made a suggestion, and I think it was a very good suggestion, and putting our people through the same the procedures that we did for the big tabletop, we'll run it through again, and just our people.
Staff.
Our staff will participate, and I would like to even put into setting up the command center at the library.
Okay, we'll get the MOU in place first.
Like I said.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll get that taken, if we can get that done sooner than later, we can have it all done at one time, and we can run through the whole thing. I can reach out to.
Would we use the company that, what is it,
That's-
the Olson Group?
I was going to reach
Okay.
out to the Olson Group and see if they would be willing to do that, and see if it would be a lesser charge, because it's just us.
So my recollection is we didn't pay before, DEMA pays for it.
DEMA paid for it because it was a big tabletop.
Okay.
I gotta see if they will allow us, if they'll do that again. But it was a tabletop with everybody.
Right.
And we had state officials here, we
Right.
had county, we had elected officials, so it was a lot there. So I want to make sure that
That if we do an internal,
I gotta find out who I need to contact, because my two contacts there now are moved on to different positions. So I will call them and find out who we need to call and talk to.
Okay.
And I'll do that on Monday when I get back.
Having done a number of tabletops when I was at the Pentagon, having you guys do it as a team so you function and everybody knows their line and their place without having to say, Joe, what do you think, or being overridden, you learn to do it as a team, and I would suggest you do it more than once. That would be an invaluable exercise regardless of cost.
oh, I agree.
I think it's a very, especially since we have 4 new elected officials.
Right,
And we have a lot of new
A
staff.
lot of new staff, and, you know, if an event happens, hopefully it doesn't, but if an event happens, you know, the tabletop we had was great, but it was all the top of the organizations.
We want it down
And
at
we
this
need to make
level.
sure that, I mean, it didn't tell the person who's going to be answering the phone what their role is. And let's face it, answering the phone is one of the most important things because that sets the tone for communication. So,
And the people have to know why, if he says do something, or whoever, why they have the authority to do it under the emergency and not ask questions, and
Right.
that's not, but I think it's outstanding and it should be done.
Well, when I say money, I like spending it, don't get me wrong, but
no.
I do my best to find the cheapest way to going things. She may not agree all the time, but
Least expensive.
yeah.
Right.
So
Most effective.
least expensive, you're right. My turn, but I mean, it even comes down to, maybe I could be the moderator going through, because I wrote that whole thing. Between the Olson Group and I, we went through that whole thing, page by page, line by line, so it's not hard to do.
I would recommend if they do that, you be the and somebody outside be the director, simply because you're a city employee at the same time.
Well, I think also, yeah, exactly, the objectivity of the thing needs to be,
But, I mean, it's there, it's an option. I'll contact the Olson Group and talk to them, and since everything's already written, it wouldn't be as expensive because it's already been done.
right,
We'll just need a moderator.
okay, all right. I think that would be a good winter activity if we could figure out a way to do it.
And donuts and coffee.
Fruit.
Chocolate frosted rainbow sprinkled donuts.
Okay, all right. I know your priorities. Okay. Anybody else have anything to bring forward? Robin, is there anything from your perspective? Been very quiet there. Looks like we might have lost Khalil, is that right? Or is he still on, but, oh,
Just turned off his camera.
okay. All right. Danielle, you have anything?
There he is.
Yikes, Khalil. You're muted.
Maybe he's working on it.
We're not,
I'm sorry, I was just muted a little bit.
no problem.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to add here at this point?
No, I'm just listening and learning right now.
Okay. Danielle, anything from Sea Grant that we should know about?
Yeah, well, I know Anne Marie's been participating in disaster recovery roundtables that have been hosted by IPA with Troy Mix. There's another one tomorrow on food security. These are roundtables that bring together different individuals, municipal leaders, to talk about issues related to recovering from a disaster, including this pandemic. And we've had different topics like digitization, but I'm pleased to be working with them on the September roundtable, and that one will be on September 8th, and that'll be focused on the value of forming networks on the ground, of social networks and community networks that can support recovery and resilience. So that'll be at 12. Encourage anyone to join those. And I believe they're going to continue on through the fall. The other thing I want to mention, and this is really just very preliminary at this point, but you know about CCC for COVID, which is the community group that is a network working on COVID response and recovery. The group has expressed interest in working as we start really kind of phasing more and more into recovery, thinking about other emergency preparedness activities. We're thinking about doing an initiative related to Smart 911 registration, and we have Joe Thomas's interest in that. So I guess I'm just going to say stay tuned. We're trying to follow up with Joe, but he has expressed interest in partnering with us on that.
That's great. Do you have any idea what the county pickup has been on Smart 911?
What the county, I missed the
How
last
many
part.
people have already enrolled?
Oh, the numbers?
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers. We see an impediment, given that it's an online registration. So for county residents that are used to, using the internet and have access and broad, bandwidth and everything, it's all fine. But for those out in the county that don't have good bandwidth or are older adults and maybe not comfortable, with the whole registration process online, it can be an impediment. So what we're talking about is how to reduce some of those impediments, and maybe CCC for COVID could be one of the bridges. We were pretty helpful in the vaccine rollout, in really getting some of the most vulnerable individuals in the county who just were not very mobile, didn't have a lot of computer savvy or access to computers, so they weren't signing up for the vaccine events. We basically helped work, partnering with the state and others to, bring vaccine events to them, to their doorstep, basically. So we're thinking about how can we serve as a bridge again with Smart 911.
Okay. I think one of the things we talked about was the possibility of having the library work with enrolling people in Smart 911, and I don't think that ever really got operable, or operational, I should say. And
It didn't, but the libraries did come up again. So
Yeah.
I think that we are thinking about libraries potentially because they have laptops, right? And if we can come up with some registration events, that's the kind of handy place to try to do them at. So the libraries did come up.
Yeah, okay.
I got a question on that. Should we run that ad again? That we did last year?
Oh, the one that we did, the TV spot that we did, we could do that again.
I mean, it's already done, so all we have to do is call and ask for a space.
Remember the TV ad we did? Yeah, we could do that.
And
I think
that's us both.
if you, maybe as you get closer to rolling out something, we would do it.
I can reach out to that lady again and see how much it'll cost us.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and I think when we're, talking about using the library and working with the library to do something, that was early 2020, and then
The COVID hit.
then the world shut down.
Right.
And we just,
Well, but we are in hurricane season and everything
Right.
else, so maybe, would be and certainly the worldwide events in terms of climate change and things like that we've seen, it's on the front page of every paper almost daily. So maybe, Chatham, if you want to look into rerunning that would be a good idea.
And then I can keep you in the loop as our discussions, evolve on any planning activity event that we decide to do. I'll be sure to include the city in that.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is also, if you keep us informed, I think we can certainly reach out to the HOA presidents and ask them to forward it on through their HOAs and make sure that we get as best penetration as possible into the community. Yes, Joe?
Could we put a notice in BPW, I mean, they get to every resident, and they,
As you may ask Austin.
Austin, could we put some kind of notice in the letter that BPW sends out with their bill? That would reach every single resident.
Yeah, as long as we have a framework for something, I just have to send it in to our vendor. They'll take a look at it. They'll make sure that it fits there. That basically, they'll take it, convert it to that it works for them, and that would be inserted in the bills. And then we also send the same notice to all of our e-bill customers.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea, Joe. Thank you. Thanks, Austin. That would be a big help. I didn't know with your new billing if you had the ability, still have the ability to do that.
Yep.
That's terrific. Okay. So let's work together. Chatham, you figure out what you're doing. And I think the timing of doing it as a TV spot and doing it with a mailing would probably help. That way you kind of hit people in different opportunities.
I'll call Joe.
Okay.
when we get done here.
All right, great. All right, anybody, Brent, do you have anything to bring forward from GMB at this point?
No, the only thing I was going to say, unfortunately, I missed the first committee meeting for resiliency. I was just coming back from Deep Creek getting some fresh air. But I did offer up to Philip in the group to potentially bring aboard the Game of Floods.
Okay.
You were just talking about a tabletop exercise. So the Game of Floods, I don't know if anybody's ever seen it or played it. I see Danielle shaking her head. It basically puts you in a different role, so you get kind of the broad scope of how things are focused. And if you're going down the NIMS training, this actually kind of works well with that. And you can apply it to any sort of disaster, but let's face it, the main one that's going to face Lewes in general is going to be flooding. So
they did actually, I've just had a little sidebar with Janelle, they did talk about Game of Floods.
Right.
Okay.
So, I don't remember where we ended it, but.
We didn't.
Okay.
It was an open-ended discussion, we never
Which
got.
is why nothing's resonating.
I've done it before. I could facilitate it because I'm not,
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about how we're gonna bring information to the group, so.
Right.
we're still-
Category 3 or 4 flood takes out the shelter at Cape Henlopen High School.
Yeah,
I mean hurricane.
yeah. I looked online at the Game of Floods, and a lot of them have been done for specific cities, apparently. It's one of the things I saw online. And then there's obviously a more generic form.
Yeah, the one that I did was, it was generic, but it's that whole thing of, you know, you think you have a plan, and then you pull a card that, oops.
It's a wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So it
that's
should
what's going to
take
happen,
thoughts,
right?
Right. Okay, well, I think that's something we can discuss with Philip Barnes and Jen, because I think it's a good, and it would be much more interactive than some of the initial planning of,
Right.
for the committee.
That, if we do that, it should be done in person.
Absolutely.
We need to schedule something where everybody could be there in person, because it's just a different dynamic.
Correct. Yeah, you need to be in person to do that. Okay, great. All right. Robin, you have anything else to add? Okay. And Khalil, I think you said you were in the listing mode. Do you have anything you want to add at this point?
Nothing at this point, no.
Okay, great. So looking ahead, let's look at October. Seems like it's crazy that we're talking about October already. So.
Once Christmas will be here.
Oh, stop.
I'll be a year older.
Oh, well, that happens regardless.
Chatham, the Christmas gift that keeps on giving.
All right, how about Tuesday, the 12th? That's the morning after our city council meeting. Does that work for everyone?
October 12th, 9 a.m.
9 o'clock, a good time for everybody? Okay.
I think I'm on vacation.
Just to let you know, I'm on vacation. It looks like potentially Charlie's on vacation, but we can get you information before the meeting.
Okay.
I am taking my daughter to a concert. I will be out of town the whole week.
The whole week? That's a long concert if you're gone for a whole week.
It's 2 concerts from back to back.
Okay. All right. So we want to back up a bit and go to the 5th? That's Tuesday, the 5th? Is everybody around that week?
I'm in training that day.
Well, aren't you just the king of monkey wrenches?
All right.
What about the 6th?
Well, I was going to say the 6th is the next option here.
I can do that.
Brent, are you off to more fresh air at that point, or are you around?
No, it's the following week that I'm going to be in Vermont.
Okay. All right, so Wednesday the 6th at 9 a.m., does that work for everyone? Janelle, or Danielle, you okay with that? Okay, so we'll plan to meet then.
It works until it doesn't.
Right.
I'm sure it'll be a flat loose somewhere.
Well, by then, we'll have been well into the hurricane season, and we'll have some idea, hopefully. We will not have had any significant storms, but yes, right, I see Anne Marie's got her little praying hands. So, all right, is there anything else to bring forward? If hearing none, it's 10:02. I think we can adjourn this meeting. Thank you all very much for being here. Have a great day. Stay out of the heat if possible.
You too. Take care.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, you talk about you sweat all the time. Well, guess what? You're really going to sweat now.
Okay, I was sweating and drenched yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.